Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, October 21st. I'm Jimmy Prince with the details. As the momentum builds for the upcoming general elections, opposition member of parliament for Central Kingstown, Sinclair Leacock, says he fears for his life. Leacock told SVG-TV News earlier today that he has much apprehension going into the next general elections and he will not be careless nor reckless with the way he goes about his business.
I look at the mood and the trend and the direction in which adversarial politics is taking in, and sometimes I fear for my own personal safety when I'm on the road late at evenings from walking, doing house to house, socializing with others. And I have my own apprehensions with respect to the elections coming up, and I therefore may well have to double my own precautions to ensure that I can come through the general elections safe and sound. But my appeal is to all on Sunday to put down the guns. I recognize the significance of the constituency that I represent in the eventual outcome of any election. And I am not unrealistic in realizing that there are people who will go to great lengths to secure the outcome that they feel that is most favorable to them. I myself have been subjected to threats in the past. The police have investigated some. It's on record what others have said on radio that they're prepared to take my life out for their own leader, and I don't let those things pass lightly. If that's the sacrifice one has to pay for democracy, then so be it.
The police here are investigating a killing which occurred last evening in the Green Hill area. According to reports, 24-year-old Anika Stowe of Green Hill died at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital after receiving a single gunshot wound to the chest around 9 p.m. The deceased young woman is said to be the mother of an 8-year-old girl. Meanwhile, area rep for Central Kingstown, Sinclair Leacock, told SVG-TV News that he felt totally disgusted having learnt of the incident last evening.
But about 3 or 4 weeks ago, you had a shootout up in the Green Hill area, and a few people got shot. In fact, I was at the hospital last week to see one of them, a good friend of mine, Gary, and go over the incident and matters related there too. And I proffered certain advice, which I still keep to myself. And so now hearing about this incident coming so soon after bothers me, because in any of the communities that you go, people are not too happy when you have the regular patrols of the Black Squad, the SSU and so on and so forth, even this is for their own safety and their own interests. And within recent time, obviously, the police have figured that this is an area of interest once more and they're being patrolled with greater frequency.
You think both incidents are related, the one that occurred 4 weeks ago and this one? What do you think may have triggered this shooting?
Well, as a parliamentarian, I probably should not speculate. But like you, a journalist, I'm hearing the talk on the street that they may be related. But I simply don't want to go beyond that.
Meanwhile, another killing which also occurred yesterday is receiving the attention of the police here. Reports are that at around 5:20 p.m., 28-year-old Desmond Yearwood of Calder met his death after he was struck in the head with a stone. He was rushed to the Levi Latham Health Center in Mesopotamia where he succumbed to his injuries. One person is said to be in custody assisting the police with their investigations. The two killings bring the murder count for the country thus far to 30 for this year. Meanwhile, the mother of the deceased, called resident Norma Yearwood, spoke to SVG-TV News earlier today. Yearwood was visibly shaken as she tried to come to grips with the sudden death of her son. The grieving mother says Desmond was the fourth of her 5 children and he will be greatly missed.
Me and Des went to town yesterday, and then when I get home back, me and he sit down and start to talk and think. I leave and go downstairs. I say, well, okay, I have to go and get something, give them to go to work this morning. I went down and need some flour, but while I was needing the flour, one of my sons come and say, Mommy, come and see. Hamilton knocked down this up there and this dead. I said, boy, but there's now been a idea how Hamilton will knock down this. I lead out, and when I lead out, I go to the road. And when I go, I meet him spread off on the ground. And I said to him, Des, I'm going to shake him like, Des. And I what he could have said, And that was it. I take him up, I call help. A guy come with a jeep and it helped me. And I take him to my Mespo by the health center, which he did done dead already.
She said her son was very helpful and good to her.
That boy was so good to me. Like I said, that boy, he never refused to go. From say, well, you going. Like I said, him go do you always.
How old was he?
He's 28 years. And the thing is that now he leave 2 little children. I know. One every 5 years yet. Little girl, 6 years until next February. She was 6 years. 2 little children behind.
In more police news, Ian Abbott has been ordered to stand the trial for causing the death of Adrian Thomas, a sailor of Welcome. This was the outcome of a preliminary inquiry which concluded last Friday. Abbott is accused of stabbing Thomas on December 30th, 2013 at Welcome during a dispute between both men which stemmed from a stolen shoe. Abbott is said to have inflicted 4 stab wounds to the chest of Thomas, of which 2 were fatal, according to the pathologist Dr. Ronald Child. In other news now, a project geared at supporting youth and strengthening disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation has officially been launched here. The project is being carried out by the Pan American Development Foundation, PADF, in collaboration with the government of Taiwan. Senior Program Director of PADF, Caterina Valero, says they'll be having all stakeholders working together in all stages of the project cycle.
So partnering with us, so we produce results together, so we'll execute and monitor and measure our progress. We have benefited more than 10 million people just last year, and our 4 pillars basically are creating economic opportunities and promote social progress, strengthen civil society, and response to natural disasters, as I said. So in many countries, what we have done, we have representation in many of the countries, in Colombia, in Haiti, in Belize, in Trinidad, and small projects in others with support of private sector, also government. You will see in the next slide, the OAS members usually are part of the main contributors we have.
Local coordinator of PADF, Christobelle Ashton, says the project brings together training for young people to learn concepts of disaster risk reduction while saving their communities. She says the project is expected to run over a 16-month period.
Began last July, and we expect it to end October 2015. And we hope that before we get to October 2015 that we would have another project on stream as soon as this one finishes. Altogether, this project cost is budgeted for $300,000 US and 100% financed by the Republic of China and Taiwan. And so for our key partners, obviously, our friend the Ambassador and First Secretary Chen representing their government here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Meanwhile, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Mr. Howie Prince, says building resilience against disasters calls for financial resources, as well as a change in the mindset and culture of people in the way they do things.
If you have been building a particular way and all your years, and you've been impacted every single time that there's been a hazard, something is wrong with the way that you have been doing your construction. Something is wrong with the way that you have located your facilities, and therefore it calls for a rethink, a cultural orientation of how we do business, where we do business, and how we tie in all the necessary safety steps that go with building resilience.
Prince said that NEMO is very supportive of the initiative, which involves the assistance of the Republic of China and Taiwan, the Organization of American States, and community partners.
We can't have anything if we're not supporting and building the resilience at the community level. That's where the real action is. That's where real lives are. That's where people lose their homes, houses, and their livelihoods. And therefore, in rebuilding process, we have to look in terms of what it is that is needed on the ground to be sure that our people are given the best support possible in terms of rebuilding their lives and livelihoods, and in making sure that the resilience that's necessary is in place to support and to be sure that down the road we're better off.
Well, after a 4-year absence here, Juicy is back on the local market. The product, which was bought by the East Caribbean Group of Companies, the ECGC, is now being produced under the Eastern Caribbean Bottlers Incorporated. Members of the media today got a first look at the new product line of the company. The flavors on the market include red, orange, apple, banana, cola, and the pineapple. They have also introduced Juicy Water, which, according to the company's representative, the Vincentian public can look forward to purchasing from this Thursday. ECGC Sales and the Promotion Executive Rachelle Haslam says by next year they hope to introduce more flavors to the market.
Available in PET bottles only. We have discontinued the use of glass. We have 2 sizes. We'll be going out on the market with these 2 sizes, which are 350 ml and 600 ml. In the new year, we will be also introducing a 1.75 liter for some of the products, not all. We also will be reintroducing in the new year some other flavors. So this is not it. I know persons all have their own particular special favorite drink. I personally like the cream soda. There are others who like grape. So we will be adding to the collection in the new year. And you may recall our energy drink Village Ram. That is a product that was around before, and that will be available on the market in the new year.
Meantime, the reintroduction of Juicy brings with it much employment for locals. That's according to Chief Executive Officer of the Eastern Caribbean Group of Companies, Osmond Davy. Davy says it is a big move for the company as they are increasing productivity, bringing back household name to Vincentians, and at the same time creating employment for a number of Vincentians.
Creating jobs for skilled and unskilled Vincentian. Today, we have engaged about 40 employees, of which 50% were former Juicy employees. The other 50% are workers taken from other areas of the workforce. When we get into full production in a couple of months, we will be moving into doing 2 shifts instead of 1 shift. What we will see at that point in time is maybe another 10 to 15 workers being employed.
And while the debate continues over severance pay owed to former butlers' employees, that should be employees, Davy made it clear that they are not responsible for those payments, noting that ECGC and butlers are 2 separate entities.
The question in terms of those workers who were employed by Juicy at the time of its closure, there are some issues there, but I would like to say that those are not issues of East Caribbean Bottlers Inc. Right. The receiver has a responsibility based on law to address the issue of severance of former employee. It is a legal matter which must be addressed by the receiver and not by ECGC.
A local history exhibition was held here earlier today. On display were profiles of local historical figures, photo and food galleries, technological appliances, and a presentation of cultural performances. The expo held at the National Public Library was hosted by the Ministry of Education in collaboration with the History Teachers Association and the Ministry of Culture. Speaking at the opening ceremony for the exhibition, Senior Education Officer Aldia Gumbs-Dyer says the event was organized to give young people a chance to learn more about local history and to broaden their interest in the subject.
We wish to provide the students with the opportunity to showcase their work. In this way, we expect that students would be more engaged, since they must explore deeply the topics that they study and adopt a hands-on approach in preparing for their presentations. Ultimately, we hope that they would not only improve their own competence, but they will also be motivated to become more involved in research and in critically analyzing social and other issues that affect us.
Gumbs-Dyer points out that it is rare to find such events where everyone is able to come together and enjoy samples from the past.
The expo is anticipated to provide historical information to the general public. We especially hope that our people would see that history is not static, but rather it is a dynamic and lively subject that allows for multiple perspectives and serious engagement.
Meanwhile, featured speaker, principal of the St. Vincent Grammar School, Curtis King, urges Vincentians not to forget the past as they look towards the future. According to King, remembering the past is very important since it helps to explain the present. He used the opportunity to encourage teachers to always remind their students of the past, given the fast-paced society we are now living in, where everything keeps moving forward quickly.
I'm saying that we have come a long way, and there's evidence out there to show that. Today, we no longer have to take inspiration from pirates like Sir Francis Drake's. No, man. We have our own Joseph Chatier, His Excellency, who has demonstrated that never mind how small or how insignificant we might be in terms of the geopolitical dimension in the world today, but with teamwork, with commitment, with hard work, we can achieve. So I'm saying that we have indeed come a long way. It is for our students, it is for our people to do the necessary research so that they could come familiar with the items.
The exhibition was held under the theme, Look How Far We've Come, Don't Forget Your History, Know Your Destiny. St. Vincent and the Grenadines will next month host the 4th Advocates Caribbean Biennial Regional Conference. At a media conference yesterday, Chair of the Advocates SVG, Mandella Campbell, says the upcoming conference will run from Friday, November 7th through Sunday, November 9th. Campbell says the conference will focus on fundamental rights and freedoms and will be exploring several rights enshrined in constitutions throughout the Caribbean,
including the freedom of expression, freedom of belief, conscience, the freedom of the press, and the parental rights. So we have speakers coming in from the UK, Mr. Paul Diamond, who is well versed with religious liberty issues. He will be coming in from the UK to deal with a legal overview of fundamental rights and freedoms in relation to the freedom in relation to our belief, freedom of expression, and religious freedoms. Also, Mrs. Ruth Ross, who is the Deputy Executive Director of the Global Council of Advocates International. She will also be coming here to speak to us on contending for your faith, and that will be geared to the church leaders and what's not. Also, there will be topics on the freedom of press as well. Mrs. Hyacinth Griffith, she's going to be doing a case study on the famous case of Professor Brendan Bain, and if you would recall, that's a university professor who was dismissed because of the views that he shared in relation to the changing of the buggery laws in Belize.
Campbell says the conference will open with a gala dinner with a keynote address by Vincentian Dr. George Frederick.
Encouraging faith-based organizations, church leaders, youth leaders, lawyers, the press, you're invited because you would be enlightened as well as your rights and freedoms. You don't want to step out of your bounds, right? And we want to encourage the press to be a part of this because they don't want in the future that their laws come on board which will try to curtail the freedoms that you currently hold. So it's going to be an amazing conference where some of the moderators, 3 of the moderators are Court of Appeal judges, 2 from Trinidad, that is Honorable Madam Justice of Appeal Alice York Suhan, Honorable Madam Justice of Appeal Maureen Rajnath Lee, from both of them from Trinidad and Tobago, and from Guyana, Honorable Madam Justice of Appeal Yanetta Cummings. So we're going to have judges, lawyers, people from all walks of life. So we encourage everybody to come out to participate. It's going to be a great experience. You're going to be empowered. You're going to be equipped in relation to these issues.
A church which seeks to go beyond the preaching the ministries of God to provide assistance to those in need is preparing for its official opening on Sunday, November 2nd. The founding members of the Arnos Vale Covenant Assembly, AVCA, have been involved in relief work not only here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, but in a number of Caribbean and Latin American countries. Pastor Walford Thompson told SVG-TV News that they have been involved in providing low-income houses for over 100 families in some of these territories, and through AVCA, they will be expanding their relief work in this country.
We're very excited about this, and so the church is forming the basis. And this is not just a church that is telling people how to get to heaven from here. And I'm not assuming by making this statement that others are not doing it. This is a church, our motto is authentic voice, compassionate action. 50% of the income of this congregation will go into social outreach.
Pastor Thompson says, as a church, it is important to give back to the community and to look after the needs of the poor.
And when we look at the life of Jesus, he was not only concerned with communicating the good news of the gospel, he was also concerned as a champion of the poor. And the poor loved him, and the poor followed him, and he ministered to their needs. So I think that all churches, and indeed some are, but all churches need to take this as a serious responsibility, as a command from our Lord, not only to address the spiritual needs of people, but also the physical and material needs. We have as our motto, we are preaching the whole gospel to the whole man in the whole world.
Another member of AVCA, Robert Fitzpatrick, says as a Christian ministry, their focus is to assist those in distress, and they have done so after the passing of the December 2013 floods and will continue to provide assistance where needed, noting that the church should be the conscience of society.
Jesus said we are the salt of the earth, and the salt is of no use if it loses its saltiness, its flavor. And we are there to provide that for the world and to give some level of guidance and direction. And AVCA's ministry would provide that. As we said, our ministry is dealing with the spiritual, and we deal with the social, the needs of the people in the community.